I cheated on him with his best friend, and now he took revenge. I broke the man who gave me his world, and now he's building one where I don't exist. I never thought I'd be the villain in someone's story, let alone his. My husband, Jude, was the kind of man you read about in romance novels. Stable, kind, and maddeningly loyal. He had this way of making everything feel safe, even when the world outside was chaotic. I never deserved him, and deep down, I think I always knew that. Jude worked long hours to give us a life I could brag about, a beautiful home, spontaneous trips, and that quiet kind of love where no grand display of affection was needed because every little thing he did proved that I mattered. But I broke it. I broke him. It started with a stupid flirtation, the kind you brush off as nothing until it isn't. Tom, his best friend, was around a lot, too much, maybe. He had this carefree charm, the exact opposite of Jude's seriousness. It felt thrilling, forbidden, and before I realized it, the line between harmless and betrayal disappeared. The affair wasn't some whirlwind romance, it was ugly and selfish. Every time it happened, I felt sick with guilt, but I didn't stop. I told myself lies to make it easier, that Jude worked too much, that Tom understood me in ways Jude couldn't, but none of that was true. I was just reckless enough to gamble with the only person who ever truly loved me. One day, things took a wrong turn. Jude had informed me he would be working late, and I happily bid him goodbye. As soon as he left, I called Tom over. Less than an hour later, I heard the doorbell ring. I opened it, and there was Tom. I smiled and hugged him. We couldn't even wait to go inside fully. We started kissing right there as we made our way inside the house, shutting the door behind us. We were roaming our hands over each other's bodies, grabbing and caressing whatever we could, all while stripping ourselves. Within minutes, we were in mine and Jude's bedroom, on our matrimonial bed as usual. The moment was so pleasurable and thrilling, I told myself to ignore the guilt spiraling inside of me and give in fully. We went round after round until we were exhausted, then lay there naked, cuddling. Hours later, we moved around the house with our bare bodies exposed, feeding our eyes on each other deliciously. We got to the kitchen, made food, ate, and made silly jokes about each other. Then we returned to making love. I was so happy because I thought that day was special. We had enough time for ourselves to explore whatever we wanted. It's not like I didn't love my husband, I did. I really loved him, and I didn't want to lose him. But Tom did unimaginable things to me, and I found it hard to let go. Everything was going to be fine. I was never going to get caught because we were careful to keep our little thing on the low. Whenever Jude was around, I was his lovely wife, and Tom was just his best friend. No flirting, no acting super familiar. Boundaries were set, but without him, boundaries didn't exist. Right after we wore ourselves out, we still lay together discussing our situation. A day before, I realized I was pregnant, so I decided to bring it up. Tom and I agreed to make my husband the father because I didn't want to lose my marriage and he didn't want to lose his best friend. I just had to find a way to pin it on my husband. We hadn't been making love at the time, and that was entirely my fault. After enjoying my time with Tom, I had lost interest in Jude, always coming up with some stupid excuse to avoid intimacy with him. That day, I planned everything. Once Jude came home, I would seduce him, knowing he would fully give in, especially with how much he missed what we used to have. Jude's love and longing for me were something I could count on, and I decided to exploit that. Our plan was simple, and to me, it felt foolproof. As we resumed our intimate session on the bed out of happiness as a way of sealing our mischievous plans, I heard the sound of keys dropping to the floor. Slowly, I turned. My stomach dropped when my eyes met Jude's. He was standing there, looking at us in disbelief. He didn't yell or cry. He just looked at me like he was seeing a stranger, and I hated myself for being that person. Tom lied immediately, saying I seduced him and that I found my husband boring. I pleaded with Jude, saying it was a lie and a mistake, but he didn't listen. He threw Tom out of the house and told him never to return. Then he packed my things, threw them outside, and told me to leave. I cried and begged, saying I had nowhere to go, but Jude didn't care. He locked the house and drove off. I sat outside, regretting every moment that led to this. I wished I'd never done anything with Tom. As a housewife, I depended on Jude. I couldn't afford a place of my own, or even lodging for a few days. I had to squat with a friend who treated me badly and mocked me every chance she got. I was depressed and pregnant. I tried reaching out to Tom because I couldn't do this on my own, but he cut me off completely. He disappeared, and Jude had cut him off from every connection he had. Mutual friends told me Tom had been blacklisted by Jude and that they don't want to be around me anymore, as I am embarrassing, and they won't want to provoke Jude. As for me, I was left in limbo of silence. Jude filed for divorce. He didn't want anything to do with me. I lost the best thing I ever had, and I have no one to blame but myself. Now, every day is a struggle. I don't know how I'll live without Jude. Hopeless, pregnant, and divorced, I have no home or money. Life is cruel. I'll have to learn to survive even if I don't want to.